Your patience, and thank you for joining us today. We are talking about integrating the Integrating Academics grant. So it's integrating academics and CTE. And that just means that you're most likely you're bringing in your adult ed to do the academic side, and then you're providing the CTE. It's very similar to AOK, which most of you, I think, have AOK pathways. This grant has a little bit more leeway, and it's a great way to get your AOK started. Let's see. First, as we're on this front panel, I'm going to ask if there's any KBOR staff on, if they would like to introduce themselves. I'll go first. Oops, there's somebody I need to let in. My name is Laura Leahy, and I am an Associate Director of Adult and Career Technical Education. So I work with both the adult education side and the Perkins side. Some of you may have known me previously. I've worked at a community college and a technical college, and actually did work in Perkins at KBOR at one time, and left the area and came back just recently remotely. So I've been learning more about adult education, but it's perfect to have the AOK and the Integrating Academics grant under my purview, since it combines both. So I think I saw Hector log in if he wants to introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Hector Martinez. I'm the Director for Adult Education at the Kansas Board of Regents.
Okay, let's see, we'll go with Vera. I see her.
Hello, I'm Vera Brown. I work on the Perkins side of this grant, and this is a great opportunity for CTE to work with adult education. We've seen some great results in students and also in programs, so we're excited to offer another round of this.
Great. And Tobe?
Hello, I'm Tobias Wood. I'm one of the associate directors for CTE. I am the other Vera Brown, and Laura actually trained me on the Perkins side, so it's good to have her back on the team.
Okay. Susanna?
Good afternoon. My name is Susanna Lee. I'm an Associate Director for Adult Education. So I don't work very much with this particular grant, but I work a lot with the adult education programs. If they need some data or some information as they're applying for this grant, I can certainly help out with that.
Okay. Crystal?
Hi, Crystal Roberts, Associate Director for Workforce Development. I work primarily with program alignment and state technology grants, but also chip in on Perkins and Excel in CTE.
Okay. Sue?
Sue Grosstudier, Associate Director of High School Equivalency, and I will tell you, you're in great hands with the expertise of Laura Leahy.
Oh, thank you. I thought she was going to say the expertise of the team, because that's one reason we have everybody here, because this grant involves both the expertise from Perkins, and Crystal has alignment. She works on getting all the pathways and programs aligned. And what I said, Perkins, adult ed, we're all in on this grant. So is there anybody else from KBOR that would like to introduce themselves? Okay, we'll get going. Thank you all for joining us. I don't see anybody else asking to join. So the Integrating Academics grant, it's been actually around since the first time I was at KBOR. But we have kind of lengthened this out. It's over a year long. And I'll move to the next slide. Just to give you a chance to plan. You have some grant money to do your planning and hiring and curriculum development. And then this also is better if you are hiring a person with this grant. So as you can see, the timeline for the project date is May 1st, 24 through June 30th, 25. So you have a little over a year. We set up this deadline because May 1st, you may be looking at hiring new faculty that helps you to get somebody on board. And oops, just a second. Can somebody, got somebody else I need to admit, sorry. It looks like somebody else tried to join the other meeting.
Laura, we got it. Go ahead.
Got it. Good. Okay, thank you. And let's see. 100% of the funds will be into the draw system. Second. At when the grant is awarded. So 100% of your Perkins and 100% of your AFLA will be into the draw system. Now, it is still a reimbursement grant, so you still need to spend the money and then draw down the money that you need to reimburse yourself for what you've spent. And this is federal funds, so you want to make sure that you are doing the reimbursement. Don't draw down the funds until you have spent it. The deadline to draw all your funds for this grant will be June 13th, 25. And the final report will be July 25th, 25. Sorry. The proposal deadline is 5 o'clock Central Daylight Time, March 15th, 24. So you should have a good time. This is a good amount of time to get with your grant writers, coordinate with the VP of Academics and the adult ed so that you have a good grant. And at this point, as we talk about eligible recipients, one of our latest grant winners was Colby Community College. And I wanted to, I did warn Nance, I was going to put her on the spot a little bit, just to talk a little bit about the successes and the war stories that they've had and how they've used this grant. They were the first one to get our grant that lasts over a year. So Nance, I'm going to let you speak.
Okay, thanks. So we got this grant kind of under duress, I would say. I had written one, or I had hired someone to do AOK and then determined that the AOK program that we had wasn't big enough to really actually sustain him. So we changed and we have moved this person to IET, which is at the prison, and it is sustainable renewable energy and welding. We also have AOK with CTEC, but we cover that with a different person. So what we've done is taken this individual, and he does a lot of different things. He wears a lot of different hats in the classroom. And as we went along, as we have gone along, we have kind of changed his role a little bit, but it's still pretty much the same target. And that is to assist people that need help in the class that aren't going to succeed without that support person. So one of the things that he does for us, or for the men, is to really focus on some of those employability skills. So he's been really helpful in helping them get resumes ready, to do mock interviews with them, to do some cover letters. He's also assisted them with writing some letters to our board so that they would be able to see what we're doing in the facility and how much the men appreciate the support that the college is giving them. He does tasks that, like, to take up time if it's not a day where they need absolute help on, like maybe math and welding, trying to figure out the variance and welds and that kind of thing. There are days when they don't do that, but he is available to help them with simple things like tools, or more difficult things like understanding what that welding book is saying in that particular chapter. The sustainable energy, the same thing. He has been amazing to help them, as there's a lot more technical information there and they have to decipher it. The instructor has put together a book, like a kind of a workbook, a work-along book to go with his class that supports the men in the class. So Daniel and I worked together and we went through and we found, like, what is the math that needs to happen? What kinds of things do they need extra help in? And so there is time set, not only in class time, but also on a specific day of the week that if they need additional help, they can go to him for tutoring. That's kind of the overall picture of what he does.
Thank you, Nance. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot.
Well, and you, as I said, you said the war stories. In the prison, things change, like not just day to day, but sometimes, like Diane and I were outside the fence working with some men the other day, and we walked through the fence, and by the time we got through the fence, something had changed. So it is really difficult to set something in stone and have it continue the way you think it's going to at the very beginning. But this grant has been a way that we could go ahead and work with the men, and it has not been so restrictive that it kept us from using the grant. So
Good. Well, thank you. That's good to know. We appreciate it. And I guess if you have any questions, you can, I see somebody has messaged you directly maybe, and we can answer those questions. And oh, just a second, somebody else is wanting in. If I can't answer them, we can talk to other recipients that have gotten this grant in the past, or we have, as you saw, a great team from KBOR that can answer them. So eligible recipients, any program that you're wanting to use this funding on must be a Carl Perkins approved program. So, and it must be college level instruction by qualified staff. Programs must also be aligned according to the current alignment models. So again, Crystal is our guru on that if you have questions. If the institution has an adult basic education program, preference must be given to working with the adult ed over academic faculty as possible. So we're not saying that you absolutely can't use your own academic faculty to integrate academics into CTE. But if you have an adult ed program working with you already, preference would be given to that. And if you have questions on this, we can always talk to you or help you get to the right person with adult ed. I know this grant does require maybe different organizations working together that don't always. So we are here to help you integrate yourselves as well. The AVE program must be a current recipient of AFLA funds and the Kansas State WIOA plan. And if no AVE, like we talked about, program is available, seek partnership with an existing one first. And if you still do not have somebody in your area or somebody that you can work with, we can talk to you about using your own like adult and like your English teacher or your math teacher to integrate the academics into this CTE program. Does anybody have questions on that? Okay, fund restrictions. So the same restrictions that you use for Perkins and AFLA funding apply to this grant. And we'll go kind of through a budget here in a little bit, but this, like we said, is split. So part of the funding comes from Perkins and part of it comes from AFLA. So each federal regulation applies to the funding that you're getting from that side. And again, we'll go through the budget so that makes it a little bit clear on how that is set up. But this grant is split between the two, and you can split your budget between the two. Grant funds cannot be used to supplant salaries of current faculty. So you notice that Nance had hired faculty, but that faculty, it was a new position. So she was not supplanting a current salary with that. Current full-time academic faculty could be utilized in the project provided their previous course load is shifted to a new person or a part-time faculty. So if the position is new and you've never funded that position before, even though it's a faculty member you've maybe already had, you can do that. You shift them to the new one and then somebody else comes into the one that you've already been funding. So that way you're not supplanting. Contracts for instruction must be within the award period and instructional duties must not be outside the scope of this project. So again, this is just a little over a year, and you'll want to have an idea on how you're going to sustain that afterwards, and keep that good person on board that you have found. Purposes for the grant funds: activities funded must integrate academic instruction with CTE programs. Some examples would be utilizing an ABE math instructor in a pharmacology course, or a math instructor in construction, welding, carpentry, automotive, or manufacturing course. Anywhere that you see students in CTE struggling with the math component. Also, an English instructor could be help with technical writing or assist in writing skills. There's, business courses or administrative courses. Look at your CT courses and see if there's anywhere that the students are struggling that might be math or English or other basic skills. Examples of the funds can be spent on faculty salaries, or like a navigator type person that's working on both, stipends, development of an ABE program, or expanding services to a satellite location. This one maybe be one that you would visit with us a little bit more about in developing. Curriculum development and project development can be above and beyond contracts for current contracted faculty. So as we've come across with AOK programs, the programs are great, but it does take extra time of that CTE instructor working with the adult ed instructor. And so this could be a stipend for them to get together and develop that curriculum and how they're going to go forward together. And curriculum development, classroom supplies and tools to support special populations to integrate adult ed and CTE instruction. So as you know, again, this is you're applying your adult education funds and your Perkins funds. Perkins could be on classroom sets of tools and things that don't leave the classroom and are that won't be consumed, but adult education funds can be used on classroom consumables, I believe. And I always refer to Hector or Susanna on that. Any questions so far as we're talking through these different ideas? Oh, and then somebody did ask if we get the PowerPoint. Yes, I'll send out the PowerPoint, and then this is also being recorded, so that'll be available on the recording. So the application process, interested applicants must submit a proposal describing the nature and scope of the proposed project and the amount of funding requested. And please make sure it's clearly and precisely written so that we know exactly what you're asking for by the time we're done reading the grant proposal. They must include a cover sheet, and on the cover sheet, you must don't forget your signatures. Project narrative, let us know what the grant is about. Let's see. Descriptions of all project activities, a timeline for the project activities with target completion dates, detailed budget narrative, completed contractual provisions, and completed assurance forms. Since it's important, especially if we get a lot of grants, somebody may not go forward if we don't have all of these completed correctly. I think in the past, we've been pretty lenient with people and sending them back and making sure we get the signatures, but it's always good to go back through it with a fine tooth comb and make sure you have all the signatures, all the dates, everything is in there correctly and in the correct spot. It makes it hard when some things maybe aren't in the correct area and we're having to interpret it. And once we get the application, we do have a team of people that will consist of both Perkins and adult education people reviewing your application. Okay, this is a sample of what the application looks like. And as the zip code is very important, we want to make sure that you know the correct zip code for the program that you're applying for. The program level, which would be an AAS or a CERT Cert B, Cert A. And again, if you have questions on any of this jargon, just let me know and we can walk you through it. We need to know who the project manager is. So who's in charge of making sure this gets done on time and gets done correctly? Who do I contact with questions, or who's going to be contacting me with questions? The adult education director and the Perkins coordinator. We need to know that everybody on both sides is on board, and we need these signatures. So we need the post-secondary CTE signature. It could be either the Perkins person or the VP of academics or somebody on that side. And then the administrator for the adult education. So here we have the project narrative, and this is an expandable form. So you can, obviously we need more than that. And we need a list of all the partners that you plan to work with in the proposed project. And that would include your CT and ABE responsibilities, who's responsible for what. And if you're not partnering with an ABE program, we need to know why. Describe the proposed project and list of specific activities funded. So these need to be, I would use your SMART goals for this. So make sure you're specific, make sure it's well defined, who, what, where, when, and why. The 5 W's that we've always learned. Measurable, we want a criteria for measurable progress. Don't give us something that you can't figure out how to measure. Make sure it's something that you can measure and turn in a final report. Achievable, make sure that you can get it done. Don't say, we were talking about this earlier. Don't say that you're going to have 100% success. You hopefully will have 100%, like you're going to provide 100% of the people will have employment afterwards. That would be wonderful, but not always achievable. It might be achievable, but life gets in the way and things happen. So we would understand if you don't make that at 100%, you make it like 75%. And then if you overachieve it, that's great. Make sure it's relevant. Make sure it goes with the objective of your grant. Everything needs to align and make sense. It's really hard as grant reviewers when you're reading something and you can't figure out how that fits in anywhere. And then time-based. Put down your deadlines. Let us know that you know your deadlines and what's achievable. And again, here's how you will measure success, and then how will the outcomes of the project be sustained in the future. So if you are hiring somebody and you're using this grant for that, how are you going to keep that person? Where are you going to get the funds for that? Is this grant going to build up your AOK program so great that the AOK funds that you get from enrollees will maybe fund that person's position in the future? So here's your budget narrative. The activity, the goal of the activity, the start date, person responsible, funding requested, and how will this activity be evaluated? So again, as everybody knows who fills out grants, it can be somewhat competitive. It can be repetitive. So I know you've covered some of it here, but we need to see it here and how it ties to the money exactly. And here's our application budget. So we kind of talked about this. Here's your AFLA funds. Here's your Perkins funds. You can tie it to the pathway, which is great, which would be back to your zip code. This is just in case you have several pathways that you're working with on this, and how each fund ties to that pathway. Like welding, you may have one person working with welding, but you're also going to develop curriculum for carpentry. So those would be different zip codes, and that's why those are there. Again, make sure you're putting them in the right column. We've had people switch them before, and it gets a little confusing. Adult education, AFLA funds. If you have any questions, what can be funded with these funds, reach out. If you have questions on what can be funded with Perkins funds, again, reach out. You can do that internally with the people that work with these funds all the time, or you can reach out to us and we will help you walk through that. Any questions so far? Don't see hands up. Okay. So final reporting requirements. And I did want to mention too on the calendar, since this is over a year-long grant, expect either us just to check in partway through. See, Nance had to give her check-in right now with everybody, but we'll either do like a call if we get enough of you. It's nice to learn from each other on this, or I'll just be reaching out to you mid-year to see how you're doing and make sure everything's going okay if I haven't heard from you. So your final report would have documentation and examples of academic integration, information on how curriculum has been modified to embed academic skills and instruction into the CTE classroom. Final narrative, what happened, give us your success stories. I listed success stories here, but that can be in your final narrative. Final expenditure report, did you spend all your money? If you didn't, we need to know that. Time and effort reports for those paid with the grants. So if you have staff being paid, you'll have to do the time and efforts reporting. And I know both sides are familiar with that. And like we mentioned, success stories so that we can do this in the future. So your final report, these dates are old, so don't pay attention to the dates. But again, it'll be a description of the activity, how much money you spent, and the results of the activity and the final outcomes. They're pretty simple. And again, here's the final budget report. AFLA money awarded, how much AFLA funds were spent, Perkins awarded, Perkins spent. So it's just an expansion of what you already had. And we do have these two, if mid-year, I mean, a year's a long time. If you find out it's not working out how you wanted it to, you're not finding employees, etc., we can easily adjust the budget just so that it follows all federal regulations. Okay, do we have any questions? I explained it that well. I don't see anything in the chat. Anybody? Okay. Give you guys a few minutes. No questions or comments? Anybody else who's had success with this grant they want to share? Okay. Well, I ended this with just 3 contacts. It's April and Hector and I. But we do have many more. Many of you know Tobe and Vera and Crystal. Oh, Tobe has a question. Yes, Tobe?
Well, it's not so much a question, is it's just a comment on the fact that a lot of what we do with the Perkins grant is aimed at things like this, finding ways to make employability of students greater, and that includes their academic skills, that includes their technical skills. But this is a part of the Perkins 5 grant, part of the Perkins 5 law, excuse me, that says that we are to attempt to increase the academic skills of the students, and this is a great way to do it. And like Laura said, if you have any questions, and she's not available, there are others of us that can certainly help.
Yes, thank you, Tobe. Oh, Crystal has her hand up. Yes, Crystal? You are muted, Crystal. Crystal, you are still muted. Oh. Hopefully we'll hear if she can text us them. Oh, she can't unmute. I'm sorry, Crystal. Do you want to chat? Put something in the chat? Okay, she's going to put a question in the chat. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say or ask? And yes, the PowerPoint will be available for adult education. We'll have it on GoLearn, but I'll probably send it out because I know not everybody has access to that. It'll take me a little bit to do it because I put it onto YouTube. Okay. Well, I don't see Crystal's question, so I think we're gonna go ahead and close and we'll make sure we get it answered. And if anybody else needs to know, again, like Tobe said, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and thank you all for attending. We had a good group, so I'm excited about this grant this year. Okay, well, I'll probably close the meeting if I don't hear from anybody. Have a great week. It's getting warmer.